Good afternoon, everybody. How are you? This is Enrique Sanchez of Spanish United. Today we have a very special guest. Would you be kind enough to introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Hello, everyone. My name is Warda Sada. I'm Israeli Palestinian, that's so-called Palestinian from Israel who didn't live or didn't get into the demolishing during the 1948 war. So I came from the north of Israel, the Galilee, and I live now in Beit Jala, which is between Jerusalem and Bethlehem, which is also Palestinian territory, that's so-called Area C. I'm a mother for 3 adults, and all are students, and I'm peace activist. Work for ending the occupation, and then my occupation is a lecturer in a college, preparing teachers for the future.
Welcome. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
My pleasure. We had met on Clubhouse, which is an application, and the Clubhouse room had to do with Israel-Palestine relations. I myself am Jewish. I am a Sephardic Jew, which is Jews who were descendants of Spanish Jews that were forced to leave Spain in 1492 during the Reconquista movement. And many of these Spanish Jews came to the Americas. Many of them went to the Caribbean, Puerto Rico, Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Mexico, South America, Central America. And my family, my mom and my dad's family, they settled primarily in Puerto Rico and in Guatemala. So it's kind of interesting, the parallels that Spanish Jews and Palestinians have, because Israel being, a country that has been in existence since 1948, we have similar similarities. Like, for example, Palestinians don't get recognition, same way with Sephardic Jews from Latin America don't get recognition, because the majority of the Jews that are in Israel are Ashkenazi, and the same thing with the ones that are in the United States are Ashkenazi. So there is like a little bit of prejudice on both sides from the Ashkenazi towards not only the Palestinians, but also towards the Sephardim. So today's topic, is to talk about the suffering and the similarities between the Palestinians and Latin America and Latin Americans in Latin America. Like Israel, many Latin American countries have suffered a lot of oppression and interference in their internal affairs by the United States government because of its foreign policies towards Latin America. So I wanted to ask you to elaborate more on the situation that you see of Palestinians and Latin Americans from your perspective.
So let us speak first about the relationship between Latino Americans and or Latino countries and Palestinian. During the late 60s and early 70s, Latino Americans in exile and victims of their, dictatorship met Palestinian in Europe, in Cuba, where the revolutionary regime offered scholarship for Palestinian students. So Fatah and the public front of liberation of Palestine established strong relations with various revolutionary groups in Latin America. So there was a lot of efforts to reach out the leaders of these movements, and the Palestinian competence also supported the how to say, call them Sandinistas of Nicaragua.
Sandinistas for
Sandinistas,
Nicaragua.
yeah, of Nicaragua. And also they were against the pro-American dictatorship. So there was a kind of contribution, kind of same fate together, that they have the same goals, that they have the same dreams, that they want to achieve, same goals. And there was really kind of same in engagement. Even there was the Chile president, Michelle Bachelet. She said that, as a metaphor, I don't know if it's a symbolic saying, that she learned what is refugee in Germany from Palestinian. So we can say that there was a lot of engagement between Palestinian and Latino revolutionary movements, and even the Palestinians in Lebanon make practicing for these people, for these competence, also Latino competence in Lebanon. And moreover, they also were, part of these revolutionary competence, were also in good positions, later on. So there was some of we call it in Arabic وحدة حال, that we are the same, we have the same problems, and we want to achieve the same goals. Regarding, the Jewish in these Latino countries, there was a lot of Jewish there who are pro-Israel and even support the Israeli attacks against Palestine. But a lot of Jewish in Latino countries were against the occupation, and they are with ending that suffering, and with ending that, even they are not Zionist. They don't call themselves as a Zionist. So there was known TV presenter like Pedro Brigger in Uruguay TV, and I think Clarissa Hardy also, and hundreds of Jews in the region have condemned, all the attacks of Israel on Gaza. So most of them, they call to themselves anti-Zionist, and they advocate for the right of Palestinians to have their own state based on the international legitimacy.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Sephardic Jews or Latino Jews in Latin America is that even though they form a small minority in Latin America, unlike American Jews or Israeli Jews, Latino Jews or Hispanic Jews in Latin America, they're not political, meaning that they're not involved in politics, that they don't really support Israel. And most of them, even the ones that are religious, they just don't get involved in politics. So, they just want to be involved in doing their own life, doing business, and they just try to keep out of it because they remember, what happened during the Reconquista movement, that the Spanish crown expelled a lot of Jews out of Spain, and many of them actually went to the Ottoman Empire, and then a lot of those Jews then came to Latin America. So they first left Spain, then when they went to Turkey, and then from Turkey they came to the Americas. But as far as Latinos in general, in Latin America, they sympathize with Palestine because many of them remember a lot of the nightmares of many of the right-wing fascist dictatorships that were in Latin America that were put in place. Because what's interesting about Latin America is that it's always been a volatile region, it's always been unstable, and the United States has always tried to dominate that region. And many of those countries have wanted to break away from America's influence, Washington's influence. So what they would do is that, let's say there was a left wing or a communist government that would form that would be in the interest of the people, they would put in a coup in that country. They would remove that president, and then they would install a dictator that was fascist, that was right wing, that was pro-business, pro-Washington, but he was very wicked with the people. Like, for example, would be Augusto Pinochet of Chile, who was a dictator that was put by Washington, that is considered one of the worst dictatorships in Latin America. A lot of people have compared him to the Ustashi of Croatia, which was a fascist group from World War II. So a lot of people suffered under that regime. And what sadly is that even Israel has voted against the embargo, has voted for the embargo of Cuba. So that's one of the reasons why Cuba doesn't have relations with Israel, primarily because of voting for the embargo in Cuba, and also Israel's view towards Latin America in itself. Like, a lot of people don't realize that Latin America does not have too much relationship with Israel. They only have a relationship with maybe a few countries, like Mexico, for example, Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil. But again, these are countries that have a larger Jewish population. But in general, Latin America doesn't really have relations with Latin America. And what's interesting, because Israel and Latin America, they have a lot in common. Because remember, Spain had an Arab population and they had a Jewish population for almost 800 years. And it was the only time in history where you had Christian people, Muslim people, Jewish people living peacefully, coexistently for such a long time. Spain is an interesting country in Europe, because even though geographically they are in Europe, they've always been very tolerant and having different religions coexist. Like, even in the Spanish language, you have an Arabic influence. Like, a lot of words, a lot of sayings come from Arabic.
In Andalus,
And it's really amazing how a lot of Hispanics and Palestinians have a lot of things in common. A lot of people don't realize that. And it doesn't have to do with religion, it has to do with language and with culture. And I was going to ask you, have you spoken with many different people in Latin America, making a comparison between the sufferings of Palestinians and Latin Americans? Have you spoken with anybody else other than myself?
First, I can tell you that I met Latin Jews in the university. I had my best friends there. I'm talking about the 80s, 81 until 84, when we lived in the same dormitories. I was studying chemistry, and Marta and Nomi, who are from Argentina, studied with me, or they studied chemistry, but they were in years in masters, while I was in bachelor. But we were neighbors in the same dormitories. We were very good friends. Even I invited them to my house in the north. They met my family. They also were with me against the war in Lebanon at that time. They were very active, and unfortunately, and I was very sad, even if it sounds like, you know, anti my goal. They decided to leave Israel after what they saw there. They feel that Israel doesn't represent them as a Jewish, as a human being, so they went back to their countries to Argentina. And for me, I told them the last sentence: I want you here because I want people like you here to make an influence on the atmosphere of Israel politicians and political situation. I met many from Argentina, from Mexico, from in my, you know, in my job, in my studies, and I felt that really that I was very connected to these people who came from away to study here or to live here, and they have really a human opinions, human rights opinions about. Also, they have their position, their opinion, their about what is going on about the occupation and what Israel make or do for to the Palestinians. So I think I met not only you, I met before. You are maybe young. Those people, I think, Nomi was more than me in 15 years, I think, when she was making her PhD, and Marta was in her master's degree in chemistry. So for me, they were another kind of Jewish. And unfortunately, they immigrant, but they left back. The other side, when I met also in the dormitory, another student, she was by mistake they put her in my room. As usual, they make separation between Jewish and partners and Palestinians or Arab partners. So by mistaken, they put they put her in my room, and we were very good. We have very good talks until in the morning she knew that I'm Palestinian, and she left the room running from my room. Despite that, we have a dinner, you know, labani and za'atar, which is Arab food. You know, I invited her in her first day with me in the room, and we have good talks. But she didn't recognize my accent in the beginning, and in the end of the, you know, of the night, in the very good morning, a very early morning, she recognized that I was Arab. So, you know, this young student was born in Israel, and while Marta and Nomi were born in Argentina, and they came as immigrants, and they have another point of view about having the relations between Palestinian and Israeli. And you know, even my accent in Hebrew, always they thought, "Are you from Argentina?" Because we were really good friends, and my Hebrew also influenced by their accent. So yeah, I met Latino Jewish, and most of them were very you know, pro-Palestinian efforts to get their self-determination. But I also met even a friend of a colleague from Argentina who okay with human rights, but she didn't didn't want me or didn't accept me as calling myself as Palestinian. And I always called myself Israeli Palestinian because, I have also the Israeli citizenship since I inside in the 48 borders inside Israel, the country of Israel. So I think I met both kind of Jewish, Latino Jewish, but most of those that I met were like Martha and Naomi, and we were really good friends. They were engaged to my family. They were engaged to my friends. We were all the time we talk about dreams that as young people want to have. Yeah, and they also spoke about their suffering there, but they said that their suffering there is much less than the Palestinian suffering here, because we were also in some camps together, and they met Palestinian people who suffers, under the occupation.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think there is some connection and different or unique connection between the Latino Jewish and the Palestinian, especially that we have a lot of also that Palestinians and Jewish who immigrant from Arab countries or Jewish countries. They met there in that places where Argentina, Mexico, and other Brazil or other countries there, and they have, they are in the same position. We are immigrants. We live the same situation, and we are establishing our dreams. But as you speak about being not connected to the political situation there, I think we suffer. Even here in Israel, the left-wing people or the other people who want, the peace to be established or these dreams to come true, they are sitting in the comfort zone. And this is what we need, to push these people to work, because if everyone sit in his comfort zone and not do anything to promote the peace situation or to end the occupation or the end the, so all of us will suffer.
Hmm.
Even when you see this country get its freedom, it gives you also the hope to get freedom for any country in the same situation. If you sit in a place that you are suffering from harassment or discrimination or anything, and you don't support other people like you in the same situation, you both will be you will continue to be in that situation,
Hmm.
suffering from discrimination and suffering from harassment and etc., etc.
Right.
So I think people who want to, who are under this situation must go hand in hand and support each other, and taking their voices out from their comfort zone. And they have to work much more to influence the situation and to
Right.
get that dreams.
Yeah, one thing that I do with my organization, Spanish United, is that we educate people, like other than doing human rights, like helping people get food, water, because we do a lot of
Yeah.
humanitarian work here in the United States with a lot of Hispanic people. We also do workshops where we educate people about Hispanics, because a lot of people, a lot of Americans have the stereotype that all Hispanics were Mexican, we're all from Mexico, we're all undocumented, et cetera. Because right now, there is an issue with illegal immigration from Latin America. And primarily, a lot of them are coming from Mexico. Not all, but many. And a lot of people in the right-wing media always like to say that Hispanic people want to take things, they're taking away American people's jobs, etc. And I always have conversations with them, and I ask them if that was the case. I always like to ask them, if you really believe that if a person in Latin America could have a good salary, have a good education, and have a good life in their country, do you think they're going to immigrate to America? Of course not. Most of the people that are coming here are leaving primarily because they're economic migrants, for one, and also because many of them are fleeing from a lot of the violence in Latin America.
Exactly.
Like in Central America right now, you have a huge caravan of Central Americans that are coming here from Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua. And the main reason why they're fleeing is because there's a lot of gang violence there, a lot. You know, the gangs have taken over those countries. And many of them, you know, are scared to be there. It's not safe. And I educate people that if the United States government would have just let those countries develop themselves on their own and make their own governments, a lot of the illegal immigration that we have here wouldn't be happening, because a lot of those people are being forced to come here because the conditions are so bad that they cannot live in those countries. They cannot survive. They cannot make a living, you know. And I don't think it's fair that a lot of people that are so Hispanophobic are trying to make it that there's an invasion, that Hispanics want to replace the white people, make the country Hispanic. That is not true. But that's what a lot of people believe in this country, because Hispanics, both the ones that are born here and the ones that are coming illegally, the population is increasing a lot because they have a lot of children, while the native population here is not increasing. So in many places, in many states, you have a lot of majority Hispanic population. So it's causing a backlash, because right now with the pandemic, there is unemployment, there is, you know, lack of services. So when you have very little resources and services, that does cause friction between, you know, the native people here and also with Hispanic, you know, immigrants that are coming from other places. So I think it's very important that, you know, the people separate what's going on in Latin America and try to understand why the people are here, why they are coming, and that they're just regular people that are just trying to survive, that, you know, that are trying to feed their families. And many Hispanics do contribute to the United States in many ways, but unfortunately, I feel that Hispanics, they don't get the recognition that we deserve. It's like we're always invisible, even though we do play a big part in the overall economy of the United States.
Yeah. I think also there is something similar about some of the Jewish that they came also immigrant to Israel searching for a better life. Despite that, they don't want to stay just because being a Jewish, but because they are searching for better life or better jobs or something. I met also a lot of Jewish like those who immigrant to Israel because the miserable situation that they were in their countries, for example. Now we have from Ukraine, for example, people who came away from the war and they came as refugees here, and maybe they can stay here also, you know, later on. So not all, you know, as you said, it's not because they want to take or to replace jobs. I think if you are good enough, you can not replace, you will fight for jobs that fits you. But I don't know the situation in Latin America, and I don't know. I know about Israel, really. I don't know about that place, so I don't I can't tell you how they feel about that, but I feel about sometimes it happens in different situations. For example, Palestinians who are from the north come to live in Jerusalem and learn, study in Jerusalem, and sometimes they got, better jobs because they have education, etc., etc. And some of the local Palestinians feel that they can't, they can't achieve these jobs because other Palestinians who speaks Arabic and they are needed as Arabic speakers are in this situation. But when these Palestinians also get educated and get their, their degrees, they also got same positions. So I don't know about this situation over there, but I think they must be politically contributed and have engagement, because if they stay without that, they will be feeling like not belonging. And if they are not belonging, so other people will look at them like not belonging.
Right.
So being engaged, it's very important to feel belonging to the place, and so no one will tell you later you are stealing or taking replacing me in this job or that job.
Right. I do agree with you. And I do believe that Hispanics really do need to get involved politically. It doesn't matter who they vote for, but at least they should at least vote, because, they have the right to vote, especially if they're American born or they're naturalized citizens. And that is something that is an issue that many Hispanics, they don't vote, but yet they complain, oh, why are we not getting this? We're not getting that. And like I always tell my people, unless you vote, you can't really complain. Hispanics need to vote, and then it will show everybody else that you do belong, and you are a part of the country. Like, for example, a lot of people don't like Black people in America, but Black people, they do vote in America. Doesn't matter who they vote for, they vote. And I think that Hispanics need to engage more in terms of voting. And at the same time, they need to be involved in more community involvement. Like what I'm doing with my organization, Spanish United, is that I'm trying to encourage and motivate local Hispanic leaders and local Hispanics in general to be more involved locally in their communities. I'm trying to set up like community centers. I'm trying to be an example, because it's like we get accused of not being involved in anything, but yet we benefit supposedly from, taking from the country and from jobs or whatever. So I think it's very important that,
not only,
involved.
when, sorry to disturb.
Sure, go ahead.
Not only, it's when you are involved in politics, and when you are part of that, you can help the other people. As you said, they are not legal, but they are born there. And they can make rules. They can make, take that situation to a legal situation. So it's, in Israel, there is the people who came from, for example, after the war in Ethiopia, and there is many people came from Africa, and they are for more than a lot of years here, and their children were born here, and they have no status. They even to schools, they have no names, So it's kind of, you are invisible. No one see you, but you work, you make the dirty works, like a cleaning. Sorry, it's not dirty, but
right.
only the very hard works, like a cleaning, like while the other people don't want to take that cleaning or treat, helping all people or everything, while they are invisible. Their children are invisible, even if they were 20 or 25 years old and sometimes go to the university, but they don't have that situation. So, as I told you before, when we have all those people who support, who can connect it to all people in the same situation and make like a revolutionary movement against discrimination, against invisibility of these kind of people, all of us will be invisible to the governors, and also by ourselves be governors, that we also affect the situation in the place that we are in it, that we can get more and more engagement to change the situation, and change it by universal support from all movements in all places. It's very important that also we learn about these people all over the world. And I think this also support emotionally and, not and morally the people like us, that they search for freedom, search for recognition, and etc. etc.
Okay. I want to thank you very much, Dr. Warda, for being on the show. You've been a very insightful guest. I learned a lot from you, and I definitely think my listeners are going to be inquiring a lot. So we will definitely keep in touch, and I will send you the link to the podcast, and you could share it on Clubhouse or wherever you want to search. And I look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your effort also to change the situation. And I hope as much as all together we can change the situation, it will be for our children's future and for the whole future in the world, because, I believe always if there is an apple, a damaged apple in a very good box, very good apples in a box, all the apples will be, also influenced by that damaged apple. So we have to change the situation where there is a discrimination, and people be silent about that, or don't move to change that. It will affect the moral in all the world, because anxious and our conscious also will be affected by that. So thank you for your effort, and I hope also together to work towards our dreams.
Definitely. Have yourself a wonderful evening.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Let's see.